Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings, you can do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is about how to paint a beach scene with watercolors. This is one of in my series of beach images being painted with watercolors. Tropical beaches like the ones that we see here in Southwest Florida. This composition is fairly simple. Just have some water, some sky, some coconut palm trees, and some of the vegetation. I'm going to have a lot of light, and it's going to be a play with light and shadows. So that's the way it's going to be. So let's get to the fun part, which is painting. I'm going to start with by saying that I'm working on 140-pound cold press paper. And for the most part, I use flat brushes, although today I will probably use some round brushes as well. So I'm going to start by getting the sky area a little bit wet, adding some water to that area. And I'm going to put some water over here too, like this. Just below where the line is, I'm not going to touch the horizon line for now, because when I paint the water, I don't want the pigment to bleed into that area. And so now I'm going to bring in some manganese blue and some cobalt blue. And I'm going to add some water over here, some blue. We have to leave some areas in white for the clouds, like that. Increase the cobalt blue a little bit more, like that. Like I said, leave some white areas for clouds. Manganese and cobalt blue make really nice color for the sky. I'm going to leave some more white areas on this part. I'm going to have a little bit of blue over here, like that. Very light towards the horizon. A little bit in the areas where the palm trees will be. Cover those areas like that. And that's pretty much it for the sky. Actually, the least amount of time that one spends in the sky, the better. So while that is drying, I'm going to add some water to this area where the sand is going to be. And just very quickly add some water there. There will be some small vegetation in this area as well. So I'm going to add quite a bit of water and make this area very soft. And in order to get the colors of the sand, because of the sunlight, there will be some areas that are going to be pretty much almost white. But I'm going to mix some brown matter and ultramarine blue, just a little bit of ultramarine. Make a nice gray. A little bit more ultramarine in my mixture. Okay, here we have a nice gray coming over here. There will be some shade areas there. Put a little bit more of those colors over here. And like I said, I'm going to leave some areas white to show the sunlight. At the same time, I'm going to bring in a little bit of sepia and brown sienna, very, very light. And bring some of those colors over here too. All of this area has been doing very light. And that's pretty much it. Maybe a little bit more over here. Leave some of that white. Before that dries, I'm gonna add just a little bit more of ultramarine by itself in some areas, like that. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. And my sky is beginning to dry, so I'm gonna let that dry also. Like I said, I didn't want to touch the horizon, and I'm not gonna touch this area either. So I think before my paper dries, I'm going to get a smaller flat brush and start doing some of the greenery that's on the edge of by the water there. I'm gonna add some green, some little bit of yellow in that area, because this area is still a little bit damp. And in fact, I'm gonna add a little bit more dampness to that area. While this area is still damp, I'm gonna do that. And I bring those colors over here. A little bit of those colors there, like that. Some little greenery that's going to be over here, like that. I'm going to increase the value of some of those colors with undersea green and Payne's gray. Especially in this area where there's going to be some shade, like that. Barely touching the paper. I'm going to add a little bit of that in areas where there's going to be a shade. There we are. And I'm going to bring, before this dries completely, I'm going to bring some of that over here too. Avoiding the trunk of that palm, and all of this will be in the shade. A little bit of this growth of the vegetation going like that. Okay, and I'm going to bring a little bit of that over here to a few touches of the darker green. There we are, and that's it. So now I'm going to take a smaller brush, brown brush, and mix the same colors that I did for the sand, brown matter and ultramarine blue. Mix those, add a little bit of sepia to that, a little bit more water in my brush, and I'm going to start doing some of these palm trees. To trunks of these palm trees, like that. There. A little bit of sepia to that. And this one also. A little bit on this shadow side there. I'm going to get a little bit more water in my brush for the part of the trunk that's going to be in the sunlight. There. Like that. And some burnt umber into the lower area there. Like that. I'm going right out of the sand. Then I'm going to go over here and do the other trunks. These are in the shade. There. Same thing over here. There we are. I'm gonna go back to them later, but for now, that's gonna be the coconut palm trees. The trunks of the coconut palm trees have a little bit more brown when towards the sand. Exposed roots and things like that. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that. A little bit over here too. Maybe some sepia. There. And before this dries, I'm going to do some of the rings that some of these palm tree trunks have. I'm not going to do those, they'll be in the shade. All right, so now I'm going to take my 3/4 inch flat brush and I'm going to start doing the water. I'm going to use the cobalt teal, which is a really beautiful color for the tropical water. And bring that over here. This is, my sky is almost dry there, so I don't have to worry about that. And now over the edge of my brush, I'm going to do the horizon, like that. Bring it over here. Let leave some of the white crests for the waves. Can break it onto the shoreline there. Bring that over here like that. A little bit more of that color. And bring it down here like this. And in the summer, the waters in the Gulf look just like Gulf of Mexico. Look just like this. And it's a beautiful, beautiful color. I'm gonna add just a little bit of raw sienna to that mixture to give it a little bit more of a greenish tint to the water. And again, I'm gonna bring in a little bit of white, leave a little bit of white for the crest of the waves, like that. They're breaking onto the shore. Clean my brush and bring more of that teal. Bring a little bit of cobalt blue into that too. Especially over here by the land. Those colors, really nice colors there. A little bit of the greenish color over here. And the water is almost done. But before it dries and before I do anything else, I'm going to get some ultramarine blue and do the horizon line, which is always a little bit darker. I'm going to paint a little bit of Payne's gray to that too. Do this before the paper dries, like that. Okay, so then just clean my brush, remove most of the moisture from the brush, and come back and with a damp brush just barely touch that edge and kind of blend it so you don't end up with a hard edge. Like that, there. In fact, I think I'm going to darken it just a little bit more over here especially. Like that. Before the paper dries. Very carefully, go very flat for the horizon. And that's it. Now, I think what I'm going to do is bring some cobalt blue, clean cobalt blue, and do some over here. Give the water a little bit more dimension with some horizontal strokes like that. There we are. Give that water a little bit more intensity. There. Okay. So now this is dry now. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the vegetation. I'm going to start with some of the sea grapes that are in that area. The sea grape is a really nice plant. I'm gonna use some raw sienna mixed with some green that I already have in my palette. A little bit more of that green. I'm gonna add, this will be a wet and wet type of mixture of pigments and color and water into this area. And that some of this will be in the shade, some of it will be in the sunlight. And I think what I'm going to do also is bring a little bit of water over here and soften some of this like that. And blend that right into the sand. Because that's going to be in the shade also, I'm going to make it much darker and much cooler against that very crisp sky. And that's the reason why I wanted to wet that area a little bit. So I'm going to spray a little bit with water. Yeah, just a little touch of water there. And add some of that dark color against in the background to play with the trunk of that palm tree. This will be in the shade. And now the trunk of that palm tree really stands out. You know, separate the bristles in my brush and give a little bit more definition to those bushes, like that. And bring that right into that shady area. Okay, so now I'm going to bring a little bit more of those colors with a little less water in my brush, but very dark, because all of this will be against that nice and very bright sky. I think I'm going to change brushes and bring a smaller brush for that. There. Okay, bring some of that over here. Again, right, and blend it right into the shady side of that foliage there. And that's pretty much done. So now we'll do the palm trees. And the palm trees are going to be varieties of greens, different values, and varieties of greens. I'm going to start with some aureolin yellow. This green that I have in my palette. And this is dry, yep. So we'll start with this. A little bit more of that green, yellow, and so I put the bristles in my brush and holding the brush like this. Do that. Keep in mind that these palm trees are, swaying in the breeze, so you have to take that into consideration too. When you do the fronds of a palm tree like this, you have to be use very quick and decisive strokes, not short and slow strokes. They have to be very decisive. Do another one over here. A different value of green. Like that. And I'm going to bring a little bit more of the yellow, maybe a little bit of a raw sienna now. Like that. And I'm going to start doing all the trees together now, because everything blends when they are together. Like that. This is the base color for now. I'm not gonna do everything this color. In fact, I'm gonna do some of it here like this. Blowing in the wind. Bring a little bit of ultramarine blue into that mixture. Like that. A little bit more ultramarine now. A little bit of sepia with that green. Like I said, varieties of greens works really well. More differently green now with some Payne's gray. Make some areas a little darker. Some quick strokes like that works really well. And bring some over here. Like that. Now I'm gonna start doing some of the darker, much darker areas. I'm gonna bring some of the green with sepia and Payne's gray for the much darker sections, fronds of these palm trees that are blowing in the wind. Like that. More Payne's gray. It's gonna cool it down. Make some taller ones. Like that. Same thing over here. Down here also. Like that. Like that. Okay, now we're gonna come over here and do some browns that are kind of folded in the breeze. Then very little water in my brush, get more of the green, and do some more over here. Like that. Okay, so now and there's another one over here, which I'm going to start with some Ariel in yellow, and again it's blown in the breeze. There we are. I'm going to bring a little bit more of the darker green. That's more in the shade. Like that. Get this little darker. Like that. Get a bit more on the colors in this area, like that. All these sections are going like that. So now I'm going to start warming up some areas. I'm going to bring in some quinacridone gold deep, and with almost a dry brush effect again, I'm going to start adding a little bit of warmth sections to those palm trees. A little bit of the raw sienna also. A little bit of the burnt sienna for some of the fronds that are dry, in the tips especially. Like that. Just a little bit more water in my brush. Burnt sienna and raw sienna. some over here too. There, that's enough, just enough of that. Okay, so now this tall palm tree has got some really dark fronds on the way up higher, so I'm gonna bring those up way up higher and much darker, because those are really hanging really dark over here. So this will be over here, and like that. Like that. I'm going to make it even darker than that. Another one hanging over here. Like this. Make this one a little longer. There we are. And might make some much darker over here too, because they're there in the shade. I think I'm gonna just leave it like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring my smaller brush into play and get a little bit, get the same colors, brown matter and ultramarine, for a much darker treatment of these trunks, because they are in the shade, especially on the left hand side of this trunk. And this is also much darker over here, and the same thing with this. There, like that. And while I have my brush here, I'm gonna add some of the bronze over here too. Get a little bit of indication of that. There we are. Here, there. All right, so now I'll take my flat brush, make a nice rich mixture of that brown matter. This time, instead of ultramarine, I'm going to use cobalt blue. Very rich. More water in the brush. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine too. Yeah, that would be much darker. I'm going to clean my brush. Get some of the color, get some of that gray, kind of reddish gray. I'll do the shadows over here, very dark shadows, blend them right into this green area, like that. A little more of the blue. Bring the shadows right into that green, like that. And over here. And same thing over here, bring them right into that green area. A bit more of the blue. Like that. I'm going to add a little bit of water, water into this area. Soften some of these shadows too. There we go. There. Now they're softer. In some areas I'm going to do them soft, in other areas I'm going to do them hard. Just like that. Bring a little bit more of those colors to this area. A bit more of the blue. Like that. And lastly, I'm going to bring in a little bit of cerulean blue into that. Not too much, just to cool it down a little bit. Give it a little bit of a different tint to the shadows. Barely touch the paper there, like that. Bring some of those shadows over here. And all this, what this also does is kind of brings those colors from the water into this area. Okay, so now I'm going to take this small brush and bring more of that gray and expand this so it doesn't look too light on one side. There. Okay, and the tropical beach is done. So now I will remove this this tape. Easier said than done. And I'm going to put this on a darker background so you'll be able to appreciate this painting a lot more than on this white background. Then I'm going to bring the darker background board and move this like this. And I'm going to minimize, and there we are, the nice tropical beach on the Gulf of Mexico in Southwest Florida. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy my painting, and please visit my website at aafinearts.com. Where you will see information about my virtual classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. Thank you. Until next time.